Hey everybody, this is Mike with the One Stop Co-op Shop, and today I'm reviewing One Hit Heroes, and disclaimer that I got a review copy of this one. In One Hit Heroes, 1 to 4 players control 2 to 4 characters, or 1 character with a helper if you buy the Doggo expansion, and you are fighting through these episodes where you battle 1 boss at a time, trying to defeat 4 bosses total. Each boss has their own unique activation deck that's going to have them adding aggro to your board, making you more vulnerable to attacks or messing with your cards. And meanwhile, your heroes have unique decks with unique combos, items that give them persistent powers. And after each boss is defeated, you get to draft some cards to upgrade your deck. So let's discuss 5 key things to know about One Hit Heroes. So my number 5 point, the least important to know about the game, but still pretty important, is the randomness, especially in the hit die. So a lot of boss abilities, a lot of them are going to have the boss attack you, and how an attack works is you roll the die, and you compare the usually color rolled to each hero's aggro bar. And if they have tokens in that color or beyond, then they're hit by the attack, and they have to trash one of their items. Eventually, if they run out of items, then they get hit, 1 hit, and die. And like I said, this die is getting rolled a whole bunch, and it has a miss side that's awesome to roll. It can be very exciting. We've had games where we won because we got a miss, a 1/6 chance, but it also has a hit die where no matter how well you've managed your aggro, no matter how little damage you've done to the boss, you can still get attacked by them. And yes, you're rolling the die a lot. Yes, it does tend to balance out, but we've certainly had games that went totally the wrong way because of a bad hit, or again, in an exciting way, became a win where we could have lost because of a miss. So this die might frustrate some people. And you also have randomness, of course, in card draw. Sometimes you just don't get the combos you need, but all that's pretty minor and does tend to balance out across the entire game. It is something to be aware of. My number 2 point is aggro management, and this is also a mix. So how aggro tends to work is you start with some in your bar, and a lot of abilities will let you remove it or move it to other heroes. And as you hit the boss, each damage you do comes over to you in the form of more aggro. And this not only makes you more vulnerable to the die, but also it's going to fire off some automatic abilities based on the highest color one of the players has reached from the bosses and their cards sometimes. And there are a lot of interesting choices here. Like, you don't always want to just blindly attack, because if you get your aggro too high, then you're really making yourself in danger and potentially bringing down the entire team. But also, just to note it for the potential frustration, you can definitely get into an aggro loss spiral where your aggro just gets like too high, and when your aggro is high, you're losing items, and when you're losing items, you can't do as many cool things to get your aggro down or kind of deal with the situation. So I have definitely had frustrating losses, kind of like with the die, where aggro just kind of spiraled out of control, and not every character has all the tools to deal with aggro, even when you draft things to help you out. So it's a cool mechanic that often leads to very interesting tactical decisions, but like with the dice, can sometimes have frustration states as well. Next, at number 3, I'm looking at the card play, the kind of core action on a player's turn, and this is mostly a pro with some caveats. So usually a character will have 5 cards in their hand, and they can play up to 3 of them. Of course, abilities could change that. And there are lots of cool ways to combo, especially because you're not just playing what's in your hand, but as I mentioned, you're using powers from your items. You're spending energy to trigger different combos. And you don't just want to play your hand blindly, because again, if you just like attack willy-nilly without making sure that your aggro is at the right spot based on what the boss is going to do, because you can see what the boss's next action is going to be on your turn, so you have some forewarning. If you just kind of play willy-nilly, you're not going to do very well. But again, just to mention it, the kind of caveat here is the frustration point that sometimes you just don't have a lot you can do. Like sometimes you have a handful of reactions and items, which I will mention is a consequence potentially of how you drafted your cards. But yeah, you might have like a hand where you're very limited in what you can do, or where the choices are really obvious. Like, of course, I'm just going to play attack, attack, attack. So things aren't always incredibly engaging and tactical. It depends on your character and kind of how things play out. But often it is really good, really interesting, and also really quick. Player turns don't take very long at all. And I'm another full pro at number 2, and these are the characters. And you have 6 of them, so there's not all of them. And like I mentioned, each of them has unique items, each of them has their own unique deck, and they have very different kind of flavors, their own cool combos that are quite fun to experiment with. But then as you fight and beat the bosses, you get to unlock cards from these card packs and draft from them, and eventually you build out this giant armory just full of cool things. And on future replays of the same boss, you're going to shuffle these up and get 10 random cards, so kind of the builds and the combos become different each time. And while some of the cards are clearly meant for specific characters and sort of naturally go with their combos, there are also also new, fun builds you can experiment with and try out. You have to also kind of match things to the boss and figure out what'll work well for them. But yeah, this is one of those games, one of my favorite types of games, where it's always fun to try out a new hero. I already am waiting for Season 2 because Season 1 with 6 characters is already so great, and the drafting just kicks it up a notch to a really awesome place. But my number 1 point, the thing you should definitely know about the game, the most important to me, is the boss variety and the replay in the game. And this is also a pro with some caveats. So like I said, each of the episodes has 4 bosses. There are 3 episodes total in the base game, plus an epilogue you can buy as a separate expansion. And each of the bosses, even the beginning ones that are very basic, have their own unique deck to activate with, have like cool mechanisms and mechanics. Even though I know, and this is potentially a sticking point for some people, this is the potential caveat, even though I know that the punch bot is always going to play cards in a certain order. Not every boss does this. There are a few that randomize the order of when they play their cards. But for most bosses, you go 1, 2, 3, 4, and then when you go through all of them, hey, you just flip it over and do it again. So there is a predictability to the bosses. You can kind of like learn their pattern, and with a really tough boss, you might kind of like figure out what turn you need to be ready to hit them hard and that kind of stuff, which might make the game feel like a puzzle, might make it feel sort of solvable. But yeah, with the characters and the randomness of the dice and the randomness of card draw, I have not found it to feel repetitive and samey. I think it is pretty exciting each time I play. Although one other caveat I should throw in, I've definitely had times where I've gotten to a boss with like the characters that me and my sons have built, and we just have not been able to get past it. We've just been like hammering our head into the boss. But yeah, sometimes you just have like a build that is totally wrong for a boss, or like you're just not really getting their mechanic well and they keep kicking your butt. It can be a little bit frustrating again, potentially. This game has some frustration points, as I've mentioned, but it doesn't change the fact that the bosses are really fun and varied and exciting to explore. So overall, if you want a quick playing boss battler with a lot of tension, a lot of interesting choices and variety in characters and such, then One Hit Heroes might be for you. But on the other hand, if you don't like randomness much, if hitting a roadblock with a certain boss where you just can't figure out a way to beat them is really going to frustrate you, this might be one to avoid. And if you want to see the game in action, I have both my old preview play and a more recent updated playthrough for the game. Thanks for watching, everybody. Good gaming, and I'll see you at the next stop.